Hey, Flow Racing, it's your girl, Courtney Enders, and I have got a super, super cool segment today. So you know me from Right Off Track, Flow Racing's only drag racing podcast. But today we're going a little bit unhinged with our very second driver profile. We have got the man, the myth, the legend, all the things, Tony Smoke Stewart. Tony, first off, I just want to say thank you so much. You and I are getting to be buddies off of the track, but this is a really, really cool thing for me to be able to bring you on and integrate you into FloDragRacing. So the whole Flow Racing audience knows you, but thank you so much. And just kind of give the audience a little bit, the FloDragRacing audience, a little bit of who you are and you know what brings you to drag racing.
I'm a rookie drag racer. That's what I am right now. And I'm loving it. I'll be honest. I mean, I love everything that I've done in NASCAR and IndyCar and sports cars and sprint cars, midgets, you name it, owning racetracks and race series. But really the last 3 years when I got to start hanging out with my wife and being at the drag races on the weekends, I learned that I thought I had a full plate before all of this, and then we definitely have a full plate now. But I really enjoy everything we're doing, and I'm definitely loving NHRA drag racing for sure.
So your wife, we'll talk about that here for a minute. I've known your wife since I was probably 5, 6 years old, racing in the junior drag racing world. And so this is kind of cool for me. It's like worlds colliding. Been a fan of you for a long time, but now we're getting to be friends. But what came first, chicken or the egg here? Were you kind of getting into drag racing and that's how you met Leah, or did Leah give you the bug?
Yeah, honestly, I guess it started in 2009. And when we started Stewart Racing in North Carolina, our first partner that was on Ryan Newman's car was the U.S. Army. And so I got invited to go to the U.S. Nationals with the U.S. Army and met Tony Schumacher and Don Schumacher. And that was the first time I really was exposed to it. But was just there for race day, just stayed way out of the way, you know, didn't bother Tony. I mean, I know what it's like to be a driver at the biggest race of the year. Didn't want to interrupt or bother him. And he spent more time talking to me and asking me questions than I did him. I just felt so awkward, you know, being in the middle of his race day like that. But it was really cool to be a part of it and see it. And, you know, then you fast forward to 2020 and Leah and I literally went on our first date the Monday after Baby Gators. She was there, and I was actually in Alabama, had been running a sprint car and was on my way to Georgia. So I just went down to Gainesville. We ended up having lunch in Gainesville, took an Uber to Daytona Beach, went to Bike Week for a night. And, you know, then we started dating full time. And when I had the opportunity to finally go to what they called Indy 1 in 2020, because they ran races at Indy that year, to get the opportunity. And that was right in the middle of COVID. And Don Schumacher gave me permission to be in the pits. I mean, they had a very strict policy of if you didn't work on that car and you weren't a DSR employee, you could not be in the pit area because of the COVID restrictions. And you know, Don was gracious enough to let me hang out with the team. And you know, really, I guess it set the hook. But even before all of that, I guess, or in the middle of all of that, between 2009 and 2020, I mean, we were always, during the sprint car races, once I retired after 16, we would always have the drag races on because it was the NASCAR Xfinity Series was either on before or after it. And so, you know, we would watch our Xfinity teams run, and then we were paying attention to Austin Prock because Austin was a buddy of ours and he raced his midget. Him and his brother Thomas, they ran their midget out of our shop at TSR in Brownsburg. So we stayed kind of attached to it to a certain degree, but at arm's length, I guess, at that point. But like I said, when I got to go with Leah to the races and I got to really be in and see what was going on, it took me 2 or 3 weeks to get to where I'd really talk to a lot of the guys, because again, just didn't want to be in their way. But the longer I was there, the more questions I had. And then, you know, Scotty Okahara, the car chief on Leah's car at the time, him and I hit it off. And so I'd ask him a question, he'd give me an answer. It would sprout 3 more questions. And that just kept going and going and going. And it really did set the hook.
Now, Flow Racing, we're very well known in the dirt world, we call it in drag racing, the roundy round world, whatever division of that it may be. But a lot of guys like you're interested in all of it. And to be honest, something we found in Flow Racing is it's a little bit fragmented, where our drag racing fans stay in the drag racing land and our dirt fans stay there, late model fans. What is it about drag racing, and what's it going to take to kind of bring all of us motorsports fans together as one, and everybody get the fever like you did?
I think honestly, and I tell a lot of people this is in NASCAR, I'm sure I'll get penalized at some point for saying all this, but I've always said that it's 10 times better to go to a NASCAR race. If you're just going to go for the race itself, it's 10 times better to watch it on TV than be there in person. An NHRA drag race is the exact opposite of that. I mean, watching it on TV is great and you get to see cool stuff in the slow-mos. But if you have the opportunity to go to a drag race and you get to go down in the pit area and you get to smell the nitro, to see the teams working on the cars and you're 10 feet away from them. But to feel that concussion when the cars hit the gas on the starting line, it doesn't matter how high up in the bleachers you're sitting, you feel that in your body and you feel stuff moving in your body you've never felt before. And there's nowhere else in the world, there's no other kind of motorsports that you get that sensation. So that's why I'm so adamant about people of just get them to the track one time. If you can get them there once, everybody that I've met that has been a NASCAR fan that said, hey, we came to see you this weekend. And then I said, come back at the end of the day and let me know what you thought about it. And they'll come back at the end of the day and they're like, we had no idea how crazy this was and how cool this was. And that's what I feel like is going to move the needle. We just have to get people there once to see it and feel it. That way, when they're watching on TV or watching on Flow, they understand exactly what's going on and the sensations and the smells and the sights and sounds. I mean, there's just so much to see.
It's absolutely unreal. And you said the concussion that it gives you. I don't think people understand that. You can hear it on the TV or see the camera move, but it's just wild. You brought your buddy Clint Boyer to Charlotte last year. Did he share the same sentiments that you did?
Well, he's crazy anyway. So
He is crazy.
He thinks I'm crazy for what I'm doing now, but he thought it was pretty cool. He has zero desire to get in one. I think he's getting too comfortable with this suit and tie gig he's got on the weekends. But yeah, Clint's an awesome guy and he likes to do some pretty cool stuff. But when you hear him go, man, I don't want anything to do with that. I mean, that tells you how intense the sport is.
You just said yourself in 2020, you were afraid to get in anybody's way. From 2020, afraid to get in anybody's way, to 2023, earning the Drag Illustrated Ambassador of the Sport. Like, that's a pretty fast track. And I got to tell you, I was nominated for that. So thank you so much for winning and not leaving me have that. So I'm just joking there. But seriously, it was an honor on my end I had no idea that Wes had even considered me. And I'm going through on my Flow end, writing these articles and type your name. And I'm like, my name. So that was really cool to be even in there. But 3 years to go from feeling like you were being a pester in the pit to being an ambassador of the sport. Like, what does that say? What does that say about the community accepting you and what you've done?
I think that was, and I still tell Leah this and everybody, that one of the greatest things about when I started going to the drag races was how welcoming the whole racing community was with NHRA. Not only their officials and upper management, but Doug Collette and I raced sprint cars together. Like I said, Austin Prock raced down of our shop. I've known J.R. Todd and his dad forever because of Lawrenceburg Speedway. There was a lot of crossover there before, but then when I got to start going to the races, how they all put their arms around me and welcomed me in and showed me around. And JR's dad, hey, can't stand there and grab me. And he pulled me, he goes, you can stand here though. And so just things like that, things I didn't know. But yeah, that was something that really, honestly, was a real pleasant surprise. You never know when you're going to a different form of motorsports, whether you're going to be welcomed or whether they're going to go, oh, what's he doing here? And I can tell you 100% the drag race community welcomed me with open arms. And, it's an atmosphere at the racetrack that people don't realize, that whole pit area is one gigantic family.
It is.
At the end of the day, the fans leave, the guys are still working on cars or finishing up on cars. And guys from different teams are coming down and visiting each other and hanging out and having a drink with each other and hanging out at the racetrack before they go home and go to the hotel and go to sleep for the night. But, it's different than a lot of form of motorsports where, in the dirt track world, for example, Leah was always shaking her head at the end of the night because we would be at a track for 2 days in a row, 2 nights in a row of racing. and get done with the first night, and everybody loads everything up and everybody heads out as quick as they can. And she couldn't understand. She's like, why would you leave when you're already set up? I'm like, the only thing we have to set up is a little four-wheeler that pushes in the front, a mule that has the tools and spares, and the car behind it. Other than that, it's all inside the trailer. It's not like the setup that we have with NHRA and awnings and all the equipment outside. But those teams have to leave to go to the car wash the cars, have to service them in the parking lot at the hotel in the morning before they come back to the track. So that's where there's a huge difference in the sports. But it's just really cool to see how many fans we actually had. I had no idea how many drag race fans followed me in my NASCAR and sprint car career until I got down there in 2020. And just to see all the support that we've got when I started testing in the Top Fuel car, and then last year when I started running with McPhillips with the alcohol car, it was just crazy how much support and how much help guys like Tony Petragon. I've been able to spend a lot of time with him because I'm doing work in the booth with Fox during the broadcast, and he's given me a lot of help. Two best teachers I've got, obviously, number one's my wife, Leah, and Matt Hagan. And Matt is just, how Matt is. He's like a box of ping pong balls dumped over a 4-story balcony all the time. He's just
That's
always
great.
moving around. And but he's been super supportive as well. And I got 2 whole nitro teams that are excited about what we're doing and that we're driving as well. So I got a great support system. The entire pit is a great support system. I felt like John Force the other night. I think it was 2 hours after we got done with our run, and I was still in my uniform, still in the staging lanes where they were doing the photos. So it just was really cool to see all the people that came over and congratulated us, all the teams and crew guys, Jimmy Prock, Austin Prock, Tony Schumacher, all the people that reached out, Snake. He's the one responsible for getting Leah and I hooked up. He called just to see all the support that we got and how many people were really excited that we won Sunday. That absolutely meant the world to me.
So, which kind of transition naturally here into now where you're at in the sport. You mentioned you tested in the nitro Top Fuel car and landed in the alcohol car. Now, a lot of people who don't know drag racing just think, if you've done one thing, you've done A, you can just pop in and do any of these 8 cars. If you drive a super comp car, you can drive a pro stock car. If you drive a NASCAR, you can drive a Top Fuel car. You're kind of setting a precedence of, it doesn't matter who I am. It doesn't matter what I've won. You've gone, I think I saw something impressive, 43 consecutive seasons during a motorsports victory. That is absolutely ludicrous. And you're doing the right thing and doing a driver developmental program and starting in the alcohol ranks and why did you do that? Why is that important?
Well, I think we kind of have to go backtrack a little bit. And like I said, I mentioned Don. I met him in 2009, and something he said at the end of the weekend, he goes, "Hey, you need to come down and do a test with us. We'll get you to 300 mile an hour." Well, I don't know what I don't know. I'm just a dumb young kid that's started my own cup team and, busy as I'll get out. I'm like, yeah, it'd be great. I'm like, this guy owns the thing. His son drives one. If he says it's all right, it's probably all right. So at the end of 2020, I decided I wanted to go down to Frank Holly's driving school in Bradenton, Florida. And so we called Frank. We set up a plan. We did a private test, did a 2-day deal, and he brought a super comp car and he brought his alcohol dragster to drive. And he goes, you'll probably run this super comp car 3 runs and you'll be bored of that and ready to go to the other one. I ran that thing 6 runs, and I wasn't even sure that I needed to get in the alcohol car next. I felt like I still needed to make more runs in the super comp car just to understand everything. Everything was so foreign and so new to me, from procedures and staging and all this and that, all these things that I'd never had to think about. And he tells you 20 things that he wants you to do. And I'm like, I can only remember 5. So I said, pick the 5 most important ones. And then once I get those 5, then we can just keep adding to it and I'll get it. I said, I just can't retain all of it at one time. So 2 days of testing with Frank, and best thing I could have ever done was go down to his driving school. I think if anybody has the ability, even if they don't have any ambitions of racing in NHRA or drag racing in general, but if you have the opportunity to just go through one of his schools for a day, it will give you a greater appreciation for the sport and what it takes to be a driver. Everybody, it's funny because people go, yeah, we just thought you would lined up and once, you fire it up, they do a burnout, they back up, the guy twists on the motor, you line up and you take off. Yeah, you do, but there's about 40 other things that are mixed in that are very crucial. So if fans get an opportunity, I'd highly recommend going down to Frank Holly's. But when we finished that, then Don and Leah got talking about it and said, hey, why don't we do a test with you? So they took me to Las Vegas basically on Monday after the 4-wide. Or I'm sorry, I'm wrong. That was it was before that. It was like 2 weeks before we went to Vegas. And so we did a test session. I made 7 runs. Fastest run I made was 318 mile an hour. Ran a 386 at 318. So that was pretty cool. And literally had enough slips to get a top fuel license. And I'm like, well, this is crazy. I said, I don't have near enough laps in a dragster or any kind of drag car to get a license. So I had zero desire to try to get a license, but really enjoyed it. And it made me feel like when we went to the races, that when I would listen to Leah talk to the crew chiefs, that had a little bit better understanding of what everything meant when she was talking about it. So I enjoyed that part. I kept testing with the team. We went to Charlotte for the 4-wide after that. Tested on Monday. I went 376 at 322 mile an hour. And I'm like, this is awesome. This is super cool. But the hardest thing that I think people don't realize, they see you step on the gas, you see these things haul ass down through there. People don't realize that it is really hard when you haven't drag raced and you haven't driven cars that accelerate that fast. It's hard for your brain to process the information as fast as it's coming in. Yeah. And that's exactly what it was like. It literally, you hear police officers talk about in pursuits when they're following somebody, how they get tunnel vision like that. And it's literally what it was like in the Top Fuel car. It just is so explosive. It's so powerful. And you are accelerating so fast that your brain's going, what the hell is going on here? And so every lap you make in it, it helps toward that. But I tested last year in the car, and the last 2 runs, I spun the tires from about 200 feet out and didn't realize I was spinning the tires. And it really frustrated me. I'm like, if all people that's been on all these dirt tracks, I know when the tires are spinning, and to not feel the tires spinning in a Top Fuel car, if you don't catch it, you blow the thing up, blow the blower up, or you blow the motor up. And that's expensive mistakes. So I literally told the team and Lee, I said, I am not testing in this. I said, if we want to keep doing this and pursue it, I'm still in with that, but we were going to have to come up with a different idea of how to work my way into it and do it the right way. And I think that's what people don't realize, is that you see these drivers that drive in Top Fuel, Funny Car, Pro Stock Bike, Nitro Harley, Pro Mod. They're nuts.
Mm-hmm.
Literally crazy. But it takes a long time to work yourself up to where you're ready to drive or ride something like that. And so that's where, one day Ryan McGilvery, that's Leah's car chief now at TSR with us, worked at Scrappers and met the McPhillips family because they run Jasmine Salinas, and talked to him, and he goes, I think I have a solution. So they're literally 2 shops down from us. Walked over there and met Rich and Richie and hit it off, and they agreed to let me do some testing with them. And I think we started at Brainerd. I think we ran 4 or 5 runs at Brainerd the day after the event, and then ran 2 or 3 more after Maple Grove before we got rained out. And I remember coming back in the tow vehicle with Pops, which is Rich Senior, and he goes, you're ready to go to a race. And I looked at him like, you're crazy. I said, I don't even know.
Think.
No, I'm like, I don't even know who's supposed to turn off the track first. It's like, I don't know all these
Well, sometimes you got to turn right. That's odd for you,
Right. No, I'm good with that. Dirt racing, you turn right more than you turn left. But no, it just all the little things. And I was getting more comfortable in the car, but it was just all the things that when you don't grow up around it, and you don't start in junior dragsters, or you don't start in sportsman classes, that it's things like that you learn as you're working your way up. And I was pretty close to the top in an alcohol car even. And like, I don't even know all the proper etiquette. It's like, I don't want to go to a race and screw somebody else up in another lane or create a problem at the top end of the track. So he was more ambitious about it than I was, but I just kind of laughed it off and didn't think much about it because it really wasn't an option. I mean, their races were filled for the year, and literally, I think it was about 3 weeks later, we got the phone call, and Pops goes, "Hey," he goes, "Mike can't make it to Vegas." He goes, "The seat's open if you want to come race." I said, "Can I call you back in 5 minutes?" So hung up the phone. I called Leah. I said, "Hey, should I be doing this?" So I guess it was her confidence in saying yes. She goes, and having her there and having her to sit there and go, "Well, what about this? And what about that?" And when I'm in Matt's trailer, "Hey, what about this?" And to have that kind of support, I mean, and have that kind of a teacher with you, she wasn't going to let me make mistakes either. So that's what led us to the race last year at Vegas.
I think it's so great that you went that route. I just want to reiterate, people who don't know about drag racing, it's just we go fast, and as long as you have the huevos to do it, that you can do it. And I think it speaks volumes, and that's a big part of the reason why not only eyeballs on the sport and you building this Nitro team that we're going to talk about here in a minute, but just doing this the right way as a driver. I think that's a big part of why the rest of us respect you and really like what you're doing for the sport. So kudos to you for that. But let's fast forward now. You first race in Vegas, I believe you runnered up that first race, didn't you? So, and it was only 2 wide. So now we fast forward your 5th start. We're at Vegas this past weekend. You win the 4 wide nationals in your 5th start. First off, let's talk 4 wide. What do you think about that? You and I talked on the starting line, but just let the fans know what that feels like when you got that much horsepower in 4 cars.
I think it's great. I mean, from the outside, I mean, when I went to my first 4 wide and you're watching the top fuel cars, I've got molded earpieces. You have molded earpieces. We've all got them up there. I mean, everybody that's up there a lot has the right ear protection. And normally I can stand there and cross my arms and listen to 2 go down all day long. When it's 4 wide, you got to still take one finger and put it over top of it because just that much concussion and that much horsepower. I mean, you think of a top fuel car, a 4 wide, when they take off, it's 44,000 horsepower leaving at the same time. So it's a lot to deal with. From my side as a driver, though, I thought it was great. I love that format. It's and I know a lot of the drivers aren't super fond of doing it and would prefer they didn't have to do it. But I guess I looked at it from the standpoint as it brought back dirt track feel to me, as far as you got 4 cars running. You don't have to win. You just got to run in the top 2. And it's like transfer into the feature. So, you still go up there every time trying to win the round because you want to try to get lane choice if you can get low ET, and you want to have that. You want to have lane choice. You want to put yourself in the best position to move on and keep moving on. But it was like, hey, if it doesn't go perfect, we don't have to be perfect. We just got to be second perfect. So I enjoyed it. I thought it was great. It's the one thing I did notice from inside the car that I'd seen before watching the 4 wides is there's a lot extra people on the line, and not so much from different teams, but there's extra officials. Every lane has a dedicated official. And I remember one of my qualifying runs, one of the lanes broke and the guy leaned in, showed me what lane number it was, gave me the sign that he was broken. So you're not sitting up there and you go to pre-stage and you're like, when's this guy going to pre-stage? Well, he's not, he's broke. So that's why you got the extra officials. But I really enjoyed it. I remember one of the runs on Friday, we were in one of the middle lanes and it left, and a second and a half out, it shook really hard and I had to lift. And all of a sudden I saw 2 wing trees go, whoa. I'm like, that is pretty damn cool. So it's like a run that wasn't a successful run, and one you should be upset about. And at the same time, you see 2 wing trees go flying by you. And it's like, that's pretty badass. There's just nowhere else you get anything like that.
It is pretty cool. I've never raced at a 4 wide, but I love the starting line. Pro stock, we get a lot more of it, a little bit of nonsense, hanging out, had some in top fuel this weekend. But I think it's really impressive as you call yourself a newer driver, a rookie, going in there and having no problems and being able to win that race. And so talk about Sunday. And everybody goes into a race and wants to win the race, right? You've got your Nitro team, and we'll talk about Matt Hagan here in a second. But did you really think walking out of there this early in your career that, like, I'm going to be holding a Wally with my buddy Matt Hagan at the end of the day today?
Not even close. It's I think when Sunday came around, the first thing that was exciting was when I ran last fall. We had our first 2 rounds of eliminations on Saturday. So it's like if you get put out first round or second round, you show up on Sunday on race day, and people are like, "When do you go run?" Well, I'm out already, so you don't get to see me today. That was what was exciting about Vegas four wide was everybody was racing on Sunday. I mean, alcohol didn't start eliminations till 10 o'clock Sunday morning, so we had sponsors in for the night to be with the nitro teams, and they got to watch me run all day as well, and that just was a great bonus. But I like being able to race on Sunday. I want to race on the day that matters, and so that's your goal as an alcohol driver, is to make it through Saturday, make it to Sunday, because if you get to Sunday, you're at least in the semifinals. So you want to race with the big dogs on Sunday like they are. So that's important to me. It's I told Leah when we got to the track, I'm like, we're just rolling the dice today. I said, it's kind of fun though. I said, no matter what happens, I said, we're in a way better spot. I mean, Richie Crampton built this chassis, and it was actually built for Rich McPhillips Jr. And then we put the deal together at the end of the year, and Richie didn't even get to drive it. So, we started at Gainesville and testing, and just the car was off and couldn't figure it out, couldn't find what it was wanting. Pops was getting frustrated. Richie's getting frustrated. Crew's getting frustrated. I'm the one trying to be the cheerleader the whole time, going, hey, it's part of the process. You guys will figure it out. You got a history of figuring this stuff out. We'll be fine. And, sure enough, we went to a test at Bakersfield. Richie actually got to drive the car some runs. But after that was over, didn't really make any progress at the test. I was there with him, but afterwards they really had some time to dig in and found a couple things that were definitely wrong, and found a couple things that we could make better. And that combination, when I stepped on the gas to do the burnout on Friday, I knew I had a better race car. So I knew going into Sunday, it's like, I don't care what happens. I just know we're in the right direction now, and the car's going to have speed. It's just a matter of figuring out what it wants. But to only have one clean run out of the 4 qualifying runs and make it through 3 runs to win the finals was pretty impressive from my standpoint for the team. I thought Rich and Richie and the guys did a great job, trying to figure out what changes to make and what tune up to put in it for each round.
They are some of the best. They are the nicest people ever. But also, as soon as we heard what team you were going to, I think everybody in the pits was like, oh, this is not going to take long at all. But I was standing up there. Pro Stock was right behind you guys on Sunday. And so we were all standing up there watching you. And I got to tell you, I tell Erica this all the time. Y'all get completely robbed being in the car, because one of the coolest things about drag racing, and you've been on this side with Matt and Leah, is the energy on the starting line when you win, and the fans, and you can tell who's the favorite, who's not the favorite. You'll get the boos here and there. You'll get it. Tony, I got to tell you, I'm sure everybody's told you, when you won, that place, it was jam-packed, but that place absolutely lit on fire. Like, it was one of those cool moments. I've been around drag racing for 30 years. I've seen a lot of history, done a lot of cool things. That's one of the ones that I will remember, because you physically felt the energy from that place. And it was like, holy shit, I'm witnessing history here, and you're my buddy and all these other things. But to just be in that dome and absorb what was happening, did you feel that same energy when you rolled back by?
Yeah, when we came back down the hill after going across the scales and the photos and everything, it's I think probably one of the most gratifying parts of it wasn't even at the racetrack. It literally was when we got home and I got videos sent to me of the team on the starting line. Yep. And seeing how excited the team was, and seeing Leah jumping around.
Leah
and
was up in the air.
That was the icing on the cake for me, to see her that excited. It's I think it's a really cool scenario to be where I'm at in this point of my life, being able to go to the races and have my wife drive a race car for me, but then get to compete with my wife, not against, thank God, but with my wife. And for us to be able to support each other like we do is one of the coolest aspects of it for me.
The big exclamation point of the weekend. Drag racing is so about team nature here, right? You got to win with your team. One win is good enough, but that double up, how important was that for the longevity of TSR?
Well, I don't know how important it is. I mean, but it sure was a big morale boost for everybody. To have the nitro team. I mean, Matt's on fire this year. I mean, to win
3 of 4, that's stupid.
they're off on a great start, and it's just a matter of kind of looking ahead and trying to make sure that we still got to stay focused every week on being successful and trying to win races. But I really want these guys to plan ahead for the countdown now, and really, it's ludicrous almost 4 races in to be thinking about it, but at the same time, I mean, we're in a good spot now. It's not like we're trying to play catch up at this moment, but definitely want to start planning ahead and making sure that we have all of our ducks in a row with Matt when it comes to the playoffs. And the same for Leah. I mean, Leah and her team, I mean, they have been super consistent this year. I mean, haven't got a win yet, but I mean, compared to where we were this time last year, it is a yard sale difference in gain and performance. So Leah's comfortable and doing a great job. Matt's doing a great job and comfortable. The crew chiefs are digging away and definitely having success this year. So, when you can throw in an alcohol win on top of that, just everybody's just excited and happy.
I loved it. So the nitro stuff, you obviously, that's a lot of people consider that top tier of what drag racing is just because of the speed. But you've mentioned pro stock, you mentioned pro mod. I know my good buddy Kelly Murphy, who works on our car, who loves you to death. Is there a plan to do anything else? Even if you just wanted to explore something, would you ever pop in a 500-inch car? Would you ever get in a pro mod car?
I don't know. After watching pro mods, and I've seen a lot of videos of those, I see exactly what happens when it goes wrong. So,
yeah, very quickly.
But if you'd asked me 5 years ago if I was ever going to get in a top fuel dragster, I would have said you're crazy as well. So I've learned to never say never. But everybody goes, "What's your plan? What's next? What's the plan?" I'm like, the plan is there is no plan. It's there's a reason I'm driving an alcohol car, because I'm not ready to drive a top fuel car. I'm not ready to drive a funny car. I don't know what I don't know. So I'm going to assume I'm probably not even ready to drive a pro stock car, because there's a lot of work you got to do in a pro stock car. So I have zero business on a bike. So you think about all these things in different forms of motorsports and divisions and drag racing. I'm in a good spot where I'm at. I'm at a place where I feel like my brain's starting to catch up when I drive the car. I'm starting to really get in tune with the car and feeling the car and being able to go back after the run and go, well, I felt this here and it did this, but I didn't feel like I needed to lift for it. I felt like it would drive through it. And just all these little things that drivers have learned over the years. It's like crash course for me to try to learn it all really fast. And I'm content in the alcohol dragster class right now. I said it at the top end in our interview. I mean, there's some really cool drivers and crew people that I've met in the alcohol pit, and the nitro pit's the same. It's awesome people. It's awesome crew guys, awesome drivers to hang out with. It's exactly the same in the alcohol pit though. The amount of support and people that have said, "Hey, we're glad you're in our class. You're bringing a lot of attention to it." That meant a lot to me to feel accepted from that standpoint as a driver too. But, all 3 drivers at the top end came over. Mike Coughlin was my teammate last weekend at Vegas, and he was the first one over there. So excited for me. And I really like that team atmosphere. I like what we've got at McPhillips Racing. I love what we do with the nitro teams and how supportive everybody is. It's just a fun sport to be a part of right now.
It really is. And I'm going to hit it again with the family aspect. I was going to have you dive into the friendships and the competition within the alcohol ranks because I heard your interview. And I just think that it's so cool that you have meshed so well, not only in our world, but found your spot within it, because something else a lot of people don't realize is drag racing is not just one circus, although we are a traveling circus, but there's a lot of subdivisions within it. And so I'm super glad that you've found your home, and I found your spot and your groove. And it's been so fun to watch you run. And before we wrap this up, I just want to say on a personal level that I know this is going to sound a little cheesy, but you have changed drag racing, and we've always just kind of flown under the radar, been okay with that, been kind of NASCAR's stepbrother. And it's never been something we've strived to prove any different, but it just goes to show you that everything happens how it's supposed to happen, and the right people get in the right place at the right time to make things happen. And so I think I can speak fully for the drag racing community that we are so glad that you chose us to be able to do this next adventure with. And we hope you stick around for a really long time.
Yeah, that's I guess what my only solid plan is. I want to be here a long time. I really enjoy this sport. I love what I'm doing. This is probably the happiest I've been in my entire life, of just feeling relaxed and settled and feeling like even when we're on the road, we've got a home. So I had that in NASCAR for a while, but things changed in NASCAR. And, you're talking about that, though. I mean, Flow Sports is a great reason that everything's growing the way it is. I mean, I've been with them since Eldora Speedway, and when they came on board with the All-Star Circuit of Champions. Flow is very active in helping grow motorsports, their reach and how their company is structured and how they do things is really set to help all motorsports. Sprint car racing, it's helped at leaps and bounds. And I have no doubt that in drag racing, Flow is going to help move the needle there as well. So I feel like there's a lot of people. I appreciate what you said. I feel like I'm doing my part to help, but I think there's a lot of people that really are on board and excited about drag racing. And I think collectively we all can do our part. Like I said, I keep telling everybody, just bring your friend to the drag race one time.
Yep.
One time a year. If you can only bring one friend, just bring one. Just do it one time. Come to the races one time. And if we all keep doing that, I think you're going to see the sport grow pretty quick.
Listen, Flow Racing, you heard it. Tony Stewart gave you an invite to come to a drag race. Please do. And again, I really appreciate your time. I know after you win, it is a whirlwind of nonsense. So really appreciate your time. And again, Flow Racing, we've got the man. Smoke, Tony Stewart, thank you so much for coming on our Right Off Track spinoff, Unhinged, and we'll see you soon.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate it.